by which a republic can be administered on just principles. Like any other interest, the religious interest was part of the whole, a whole that respected it but did not favor it. If men were angels, no government would be necessary, Madison wrote in Federalist No. 51 on Wednesday, February 6, 1788. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. As things are, neither men nor government are intrinsically angelic, and thus a republic is necessary to give us at least a chance of working our way through the shadows and ambitions of the world toward the right. Justice is the end of government, Madison said. It is the end of civil society. The climate around ratification was one of high drama and deep seriousness. The men who were to decide whether to accept the work of Philadelphia were thoughtful and thorough. There were, of course, partisan fights and newspaper skirmishes. The Federalist Papers are a collection of journalistic columns written in defense of the Constitution. But on the whole, the debates were conducted with a sense of grace and a spirit of generosity. The Constitution proposed to your acceptance is designed not for yourselves alone, but for generations yet unborn, Thomas Greenleaf, writing as Brutus, said in the New York Journal on Thursday, November 1, 1787. On Wednesday, January 9, 1788, the Massachusetts Sentinel greeted an expected vote by its convention with a plea at once religious and patriotic. May the great idea fill the mind of every member of this honorable body, that heaven on this auspicious occasion favors America. Even skeptics leavened their doubts with hope and pragmatism. Whether this is the best possible system of government, I will not pretend to say, Francis Hopkinson wrote Jefferson in July 1788. Time must determine, but I am well persuaded that without an efficient federal government, the states must in a very short time sink into contempt and the most dangerous confusion. Benjamin Gale, an anti-federalist, said the Constitution was an artful, dark, mysterious, complex, expensive form of government. He thought it would be ratified, though, and controlling the president would require the shedding of blood. Still, most believed the Constitution worth the gamble. While some have boasted it as a work from heaven, others have given it a less righteous origin and charged it to the great old devil, Gouverneur Morris wrote a friend in February 1788. I have many reasons to believe that it was the work of plain honest men, and such I think it will appear. Faulty it must be, for what is perfect?
Let me close off this section by stating this, that this revolution was not of the proletarian, the American Revolution. This was a revolt of the aristocracy. It is no accident that we celebrate our Independence Day on July 4th. We do not celebrate the day 6 long years later, when independence was achieved on the battlefield at Yorktown on the day in 1784, when independence was finally recognized by the British in Paris. We celebrate the day when independence was declared in a legal bill promulgated by a legitimate authority, a very conservative-minded way of doing things. We celebrate the legality of actions as much as the action itself. What came afterwards neither confirmed nor denied the legality, but merely enforced this. It was, and that was the key for the conservatives of the era. Neither whether they were doing was morally right or wrong, for all felt that they were morally right, but whether they were legally right or wrong, as noted above, felt that the end could not justify the means, and oppose some, as noted earlier, felt that they could not justify the means and oppose the revolution. Most others were able to accept the legality that the declaration led their actions and viewed their war as a military defense against a nation that had already been declared a foreign nation, country. So we see here that great importance was given by founding fathers to a rule of law, even at the revolution. So this was a country founded on the rule of law, and that's why it's important to make a distinction between a republic and a democracy. So now I've finished this section. I want to go to another section in this same video, which is what was happening across the Atlantic during that time, during the time of the revolution and the founding of the nation. During that time, debate was raging, in Europe, about economic issues, because a Scottish economist named Adam Smith had published a series of essays about what makes the wealth of nations. It is called the original name is The Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nations in 1776. I mean, the same year that the revolution started. Adam said in The Wealth of Nations that the economy work better if the government were separate from the economic structure. What we know as laissez-faire economics. They said that it would be better that the economy run its course on its own. It would be much more efficient. We gave the example of the pins. Is that if 10 people were working in a pin factory, and each of the persons were given a different job, and they were all brought together, they will accomplish much more than if one person were making pins. So in other words, if each in the economy, if each resource, if the enterprises were controlling the resources, and they had specific tasks, then the whole economic structure would be working in harmony. Because the idea was, in order to benefit, for the person to benefit, you have to bring benefit to others. You have to produce something that will benefit to others. So it was a pretty radical idea at the time itself. So that was being debated. So that's where the free market, the idea of the free market first appeared. And I personally, I don't think it was just coincidental that it happened right at the same time of of the revolution. So, just just a thing to note. Um, and, well, that concludes this this entire session of my first class. I hope you enjoyed this.